Hello, everyone. Susan Gerbic here from Psychics Explained. A friend of our channel has shared a video on our channel of James Randi and Maureen Flynn. And I had seen this a couple times, many times actually, and I had forgotten all about it. And I want to reshare this and let's talk about it with some commentary. This has been out for years. The person who's uploaded it to the channel, it bugs me when they upload stuff to the channel and they don't, it's not really fair use because they're not changing it and altering it and using it as a um, new thing. But, it is a very old show. Don't cringe at the clothing and the hair. So there's so much unpack. Now, I knew James Randi. James Randi is responsible for the reason why I am a nonprofit. We were friends. I mean, lots of people were friends of James Randi. And he wrote the foreword to my boyfriend's book. And of course, he knew my boyfriend quite well. We went on many conferences together where we both were speakers. We were both fellows of the same organization, Center for Inquiry. I was highly infused with the James Randi Educational Foundation. I have a couple of their awards sitting over on another shelf over here that I've received from them. So I have great admiration for James Randi. This show was done, I think, in the 70s, 1970s, 1980s, and it is pretty cringy. I have some problems with it, but I'm looking at it from eyes from 2025. And so for what it's worth, I want you to remember that. Also, we have to remember the constraints that James Randi had at the time. He's on a TV show. And you have to do things in a certain way to keep the audience engaged and to keep the sponsors happy and so on. So there has to be a lot more tension than you might be understanding, and things have to happen very quickly. Whereas, on a YouTube channel, we can spend more time talking about something and go into more depth, but we couldn't do that then. So I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to break it up a few times, and we'll talk about what's actually going on. And I think that you, my regular viewers, will probably understand and see how far we've progressed as far as the world of investigating psychic mediums has come.
Currently one of Britain's most successful mediums, please welcome my next guest, Maureen Flynn.
Good evening, everybody. I hope to be able to make a link with someone here tonight and bring a loved one through from the world of spirit. I have been given the name of Taylor. Now, someone here tonight either is Mr. Taylor or the name of Taylor will have a close connection with you.
My mother's maiden name is Taylor.
Because you see, I have a gentleman here who links with that name very clearly. And he would have been quite elderly when he passed, and he passed with a heart condition, chest, lungs, heart condition. And he would have linked with your mum, and he came very clearly to bring his love to you. I feel he's your granddad. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And who's Jimmy? Do you know who Jimmy?
Okay, so I'm going to break in a few times. Sorry. Taylor. Nowadays, Taylor is a very common name as a first name. At the time, she's linking to a last name or anything else. So, it's really awkward, just that silence, right? This woman is, I think, a writer. She did fantasy and true crime or something like that. And I've never heard of her before this show. So as being some kind of famous, popular UK psychic medium. Well, I mean, if Randi says so, I guess so. But anyway, so she calls out to an audience, a large audience. This is a cold reader. This Maureen is a cold reader. And she's calling out to a large audience of people asking him if this name fits somewhere, anywhere. And of course, somebody's going to hit, right? So, heart condition for a man, of course, is the number one killer for men. And in Western world, number two is cancers. And she knows that, of course. So it's going to hit with somebody, an older man. And she says, it's your granddad or your great granddad, right? And the guy's like, okay, yeah. So I have no idea, but I have a feeling he doesn't have a clue. He's just agreeing. Yeah, yeah, of course. Well, he did say, that's my family name. So whatever. Nothing there, right? Okay, let's go to Jimmy.
Jimmy is?
Can't
Or
picture a Jimmy.
James? James? I'd love you to find Jimmy, James, because I feel that there's a link in the family there for that name. Hang on a minute. Do you know who Doris is?
No, I can't picture that either.
Okay. I know I made a mistake linking this gentleman with Doris, because he doesn't look a bit like a Doris, as I said. But I do know that I'm in the same area here.
Okay, let's stop before we get to this next area here because it gets really ugly. So Jimmy or James, also very common names. Doris was very common at one time. Tell us something a little more specific than just a first name. I mean, really, like, let's get into it. Point to a person and say, this is what's going on in your life. She would just cold read even more. Anyway, it's just really bad. Okay, now she's going to go to somebody. This is going to get really embarrassing and ugly real quick. Watch.
I have a lady, and I don't know whether I'm saying Doris, Dorothy, or Doreen, but the Dory bit is right. And I know that I'm in this area here. Can someone here take Doris? Can you place the... I want to say Dory, but I know it's a name
Doris,
like...
you're right.
Doris. And the young man who passed in some kind of crash, some kind of accident. Does that make sense to you?
I mean, we're on a programme and everybody wants the truth, so you've got to go a little further.
I'm terribly sorry. The name of John I want to give too. Does John make sense to you?
No, but I think you got him crossed with the last caller. It's James or Jimmy.
James, Jimmy. Please forgive me. I'll have to let you be the judge of whether that makes sense to you, because obviously when you're trying to put a lot in very quickly, then you do get these sort of links. But he passed very suddenly and very quickly. And it's funny because I could feel something over his face. I could feel something over his face. As if he would have had some kind of...
This is most unfortunate you picked me, actually, because I'm a slightly non-believer.
But does it make sense to you?
Yeah, it does make sense.
That's right. That's fine. Because I just felt... And he reached out his hand. He reached out his hand.
Yes, you've got my husband, so... but I'm really the wrong person for this programme.
Well, I'm terribly sorry. You should have told your husband that. Not me.
Oh, God. Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that obviously through all this he's been trying to reach you, and just to let you know that he's pleased you're here. But I hope that maybe his link with you will bring you some joy that he's here with you tonight, and a lot of love.
Oh, that was just horrible watching that happen to that woman. Yes, she raised her hand because Doris or Dorothy or whatever hit her. And then the woman said somebody had died young in a crash of some sort. And that hit home. But she's like, no, we need a little more than that. She's trying to be skeptical. And the woman says, I'm getting a John, another common name. She goes, no, it's Jim or Jimmy, which is somebody else who said. And she's like, yeah, that's it. And then she's like, starts in on something over his face and he's reaching at her hand. And the woman's visually, she's gonna lose it. She is absolutely over this. This is creeping her out. She does not want to have this happening to her. I totally get it. And nobody thought that they were going to get to relive the death of her husband. I mean, that's just cruel. And she can't end it. She's like, kind of trying to say stop, and the cameras are on her and the microphones over her head and everything, and that's just wrong. The woman's throwing out common names and just happens to get something close enough to this woman. Ooh, God, it makes me mad. Okay, so now we're going to see something interesting. Well, we're all of this is interesting, but let's see what's next.
Well, I want us to look carefully at the connections that you say you made. Let's take a vote. First, how many people in our audience tonight can connect with the name Taylor? About 30%. And now, how many people can relate to the condition of the grandfather? About 55%. So to sum up, about a third connect with the name Taylor and over half connect with the details of the grandfather. Well, that's very interesting. Maureen's statements seem to be more general than each of you thought before we took the vote. Make of that what you will. Let's consider whether you might have forgotten other details which none of you picked up. Do people remember accurately what takes place in a reading? Well, we have with us tonight Mr. Rod Beal. Mr. Beal, you're a satisfied client of Maureen's, I understand. Is that correct?
Yes.
She did a reading for you not too long ago, which I understand you think is a very good reading.
Yes, she did.
A few simple questions, if I may. First of all, how long did the thing last, first of all, the reading?
About half an hour.
About half an hour. How many names, pardon me, did she give you during that period of half an hour?
Probably half a dozen.
About half a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
And did they all hit?
Not everyone.
How many
but
did
they
would
had
you
a
say hit?
similar sounding, like Doreen, Maureen, that type of thing.
Well, you were kind enough to give us a tape recording of that reading done by Maureen Flynn for you. And for your information, during your reading, Maureen Flynn tried these names, and they are on the tape of the reading that you're referring to. Alan, Alfred, Alice, Anne, Bill, Charlie, Colin, Connie, David, Derek, Eileen, Ellen, Flory, Frank, Fred, George, Jim, Joe, John, Karen, Catherine, Kevin, Lillian, Lisa, Liz, Lynn, Mark, Mary, May, Michael, Rob, Ron, Shirley, Sydney, Stanley, Sid, and Steve. That's 37 names, and she also asked you if you could connect with any name beginning with an N or an L, and you could not do so. Now, in the ones that were accepted, and you did accept 9 of the 37 that were given, these were some of the categories: a son, a lodger, a brother, a nephew, an adopted nephew, a grandfather, a fellow worker, a cousin, and the neighbor's dog. Now,
That's right out of context.
I'm sorry?
Right out of context.
We have a
Copy of it.
transcript of it right here, sir, and you may have that transcript to refer to it, and the names, I think, are outlined there, all 37 of them.
You can analyze anything. You can analyze Encyclopedia Britannica. Mr. Beale is here because he felt that what he actually got on that tape made sense to him, very much so.
Private sittings, one must also remember.
Okay, now remember, this is a bit of an edited show, and there's a whole bunch of experts and stuff in the front row. It's very awkward, obviously. But I mean, Randy's not wrong. Once you see the transcript of what is actually said, it's almost always completely opposite of what, well, very misleading or very different from what it is that a person remembers. This guy said a half a dozen. That's 6. He said 6 names came through, and he couldn't even relate to all 6. Turns out there was 37. How do you get from 6 to 37? Your memory. You remember the hits, you forget the misses. People don't look at their transcripts, they don't look at their reading again, they don't remind themselves. Or if they do, they don't go on shows like this. Because if he had reviewed that tape ahead of time, before he went on the show, he would have said, oh, I'm not going on that show and embarrassing myself like that. I don't like that Randy called him out and brought him on the show like that. That was really awkward, and put that guy on, put him absolutely to be embarrassed, Robert Beale. And that was, and then throwing the transcript at him. It just like, well, he didn't throw it at him. He just like, here, you can look at it yourself. It just looked really not kind. And I think there's better ways of doing this. But again, I don't have a TV show. And, you know, Randy has to do it the way he has to do it. He's a performer. And so to keep it so that, you know, people want to, I don't like it because it's awkward. And I think there's better ways of approaching it. But for the TV show, they're probably like, yeah, man, they got him. Because I just like the way he's reading them all off, and she's just like, just like, "Rrr." And the guy's like, "You're taking it out of context." It's like, no, he's reading off the names that were given, just completely. It's really sad, but that is what is going on. That is an excellent example of how people misremember. Now here comes excuses. They bring in all these experts, and I'm sorry, but no. They bring in a priest. They bring in Susan Blackmore, who's somebody I know. She is somebody I know. She usually has multicolored hair. She's a parapsychologist who specializes in life after near-death experiences. I've got several of her books actually, and I've met her many times. And she's very young in this, and her hair is not colored in this. It was amazing. So they've got them all in the front audience to give like a three sentence explanation of it. No, but okay, let's listen.
Sittings, one must also remember that a person just cannot, in the first sitting, be absolutely sure. If you're going to make a research of these things, there should be a number of sittings taken with the medium, and over a long period of time, checking the results. I've been a medium for 60 years, and I've always said, if I give a 70 or 80% perfect demonstration, I do very well.
Archdeacon Perry, is it? How do you do, sir? I wonder what your opinion of this whole thing is. Would you share it with us?
The veil between this world and the next is a very odd veil, and you can occasionally see through it. Not as often as mediums and psychics think, but it certainly can be seen through occasionally.
But I do think a lot of it comes down to probabilities. And here we see the obvious problem that we disagree about what it means. You gave a good example in that tape there with the 37 names. People remember the ones that make sense and they forget the ones that don't make sense. But we're all left with different opinions. Some people feel like I do, well, there are so many names, we could all connect up to it, it means nothing to me. Other people, when it touches something important to them and stirs emotions in them, they feel genuine emotions that we shouldn't just wash away and say are worthless. I would love to understand what's going on, but I'm afraid I don't.
Well, thank you all for your comments, and thank you very much, Maureen, for taking part.
Okay, so Susan is right. I mean, it means she's trying to get more to what makes sense, where it's this human experience. And this is kind of what Jack Hitt did in the article that he wrote for the New York Times about Matt Fraser, attending Matt Fraser's event. There's something to be said for what happens to a person who's a sitter, who's getting a reading and feels touched. They feel that they feel seen. They're able to more visualize their grief and how much they miss and loved their family member who's no longer here, and how it feels to feel like they're still there somehow. They're not forgotten. They're somehow still there. It's a very powerful emotion, and to just blow it aside, I think is cruel. But it should be separated from those people who are saying they're in contact with your dead. In the same way that we might want to go to a movie or read a book that makes you cry. I mean, it makes you, you come out of the theater and you feel like, there's hope, or you could continue and remembrance, and you feel good. You've had a little cry. That feeling, that powerful emotion that's happening to you, doesn't mean that the movie was real. It doesn't mean that well, the story in the movie was real. Obviously, the movie was real, but the story and the characters, those weren't real. But it does make you have an experience, that feeling that you feel better, right? Or if you have a wonderful conversation with a good friend and it's cathartic and you get it all out there, and maybe you have a cry and a hug, and that's powerful. That's the power of between two human beings, and that feeling again of being seen. It's very powerful. Again, that doesn't mean that these people are able to communicate with the dead. Just because you've had a good emotional release, You go through a photo album, you're looking at all these old photos, you're having great memories of them, you have some clarity. Things might kind of feel like, I never thought about that from my dad's perspective before. You're probably right. And and it feels good. You feel like you've made some kind of movement in understanding yourself and understanding your past and understanding the people around you loved. But again, that does not mean that you're communicating with the dead. And I think that's what the difference I think that we're missing here is that, as Susan Blackmore says, this is all meaningless. Almost everybody connects to the name Taylor or James or on and on and on. We know that. But we're forgetting the human connection and how it feels, how getting a reading is, how what that does to you. And that's psychology. And I think she's a psychologist. So that's psychology, and that's a totally different um, field of understanding. So we can have better therapy, so we can reach people better, so people can have better quality of their lives. But we don't need mediumship to have, recite this nonsense to people and make them cry on demand like they did with that woman. Maureen did with the woman in the audience. I just feel really bad for her. That was really awful. And I hope she doesn't keep remembering her husband with like an oxygen mask on and reaching out, and oh, it's just cruel. No, we don't have to relive the death of our loved ones. Why? I mean, why should we do that? We should be thinking about other things in their lives. At least that's how I feel. Anyway, thank you for bringing this video up to us here on our channel. I really find this all interesting. The history and where we've come from the world of debunking psychics and psychic mediums is fascinating. And oh my gosh, I have so many Randi stories because we knew him for 10 years or more, something like that. And he was such a showman, and I miss him all the time. And if I could just do a little bit of what he was doing with a little more updated methods and a little more updated thinking through, I would. Randi comes off kind of callous in this. I want you to know he was a very loving man, and he was extremely hurt by how people were harmed by pseudoscience. I have seen him tear up multiple times over people who took quack medicine and then had bad outcomes. He was very passionate about how he felt about people harming others. And if you don't know a lot about James Randi, oh my gosh, there's so much to find out about James Randi. Just Google James Randi, Randi, and you can find books, you can find movies, you can find articles, his Wikipedia article, personal stories. I think he's a very important person that we should know about. And the people who are in the world of psychic mediumship, who are claiming to be psychic mediums, I really wish they would just stop, take some time, and do some research about what they think they're doing and why they're able to fool themselves into thinking they're doing this. And then to think about, why are they doing it? Obviously for money and possibly for power, influence over others, but they fool themselves into thinking they're helping. And if you really want to help, I think there's wonderful ways of going back to school, getting your license, becoming a nurse, a therapist, or whatever, somebody licensed. I think you're going to do less harm. And I think that you'll have a better, you won't be on stage and you won't be having people stopping you in the streets and having you sign books and that kind of stuff. But in the long run, I think you're going to be helping a lot more people with real help. That's my thoughts. Anyway, thank you for joining me on this. I love looking at these old historical shows. The clothing. But someday somebody's going to be looking at this video and going, oh, come on, Susan Gerbeck, really? Put some makeup on. Why don't you wear some decent clothes and comb your hair? Yeah, that's true. I probably should. Take care, everyone.